40 feet on the waterline, just under 14-foot beam, 6-foot draft, say 6'6" now because I've got a few beast on board. We carry 1,000 litres of water in a water maker, 600 litres of fuel, and the air displaces around 20 tonnes. Yeah. A medical kit. We've got a son who's a doctor, which does help things, and I know you are too. And so we've got a very extensive medical kit, but wide range of antibiotics, and all the right books and stuff that you can get off the internet these days. So that helped. And also we had email back ashore, so we could get instant advice. Well, more or less instant, certainly 12-hour advice. And other than that, it's a pretty healthy life out there. We're getting older, and I had a smashed up hand for quite a while. I did Gambia, and it was, I'm sure there was a broken bone in my hand for quite a few months there, because every time I moved it or bumped it, I said something rude. Karin had a bad knee for quite a long time there, tendonitis. So I think what you have to do in those cases, as we get older and are sailing like this, we just have to sail inside the inlet. Don't push it so hard. Don't put up the kite, or keep it up for so long. Just be conservative and sail within what you can comfortably cope with. You don't do as many miles, but you just try and cope with it that way. But of course, we saw very sadly. I don't think he was a member here, but his harbour master in Auckland died suddenly off Tutakaka a few weeks ago, just after he'd got back from Fiji, just retired and taken his first trip in a one yacht. He died there. He was younger than me, heart attack. So there is no real answer to these things, Tom. All you can do is say, well, that might happen, so we won't go. And that's just not really what we do. Yeah, we were lucky. Not everybody is, by any means. Not everybody's got the advantages we've got, which is nice. I don't know. Actually, as time goes on, of course, memory fades a little. It is, however, replaced by wisdom. It was actually my knee, and I actually opened up right across the top of my... It didn't need stitches, but it was closed. And, of course, it bled like a stuck pig and in the water. And I didn't even know I'd done it. And I wondered what all this red stuff was around. So I was slipping on it. And well, if there were, they weren't interested in it yet. It wasn't blue blood, Bob. And in any case, it was just one of those things you do. And eventually, after a while, after we'd settled down, we sort of stuck something on it and it stopped bleeding, and you get on with it. But it wasn't a serious injury. No. It was just across the top of the kneecap, but it was into the bone, and so it was a little bit nasty, but it was more spectacular than painful. Oh, sat phone. Yes, yeah, not sat nav. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we had single sideband radio, what's commonly called single sideband, a backdoor modem, so that we could actually get emails at sea and get weather information at sea, grid files and things. We also had weather facts available from New Zealand and Chile. It was fine. And in fact, actually, we're talking to a number of other yachties out there. Some of them go with a sat phone iridium or whatever it is instead and don't have the HF radio. They are finding it pretty expensive for their communications. It's cheaper to set up, but much more expensive to run. And I think that those people who've stuck with the old HF radio, especially with a modem and things, I think they're a little bit happier. That's as best I can judge talking to people. I don't have any problems generally with HF radio, but certainly we did with sail mail. Sail mail relies on ground stations, and there's one in Chile which worked fine when we were there, and we had good reception all the way across the Pacific, and every few days Bob would send another lovely routing plan which would say, now go here and here's your waypoints, and when you get to that waypoint, this is how strong the wind will be, this is the direction it will come from. we'd get this in, and I'd be wanting to sort of see the overall picture, but Karin had grabbed the email from us, and she'd sort of shove me out of the way of the computer and run down. Oh, good, there's nothing over 30 knots. That was great. But on the coast of Brazil, we had a real problem. It was very, very slow to get sail mail because we were so far away from any of the stations, like the one in Trinidad. But at that stage, we had actually got, when we were on the coast, we'd also got, for our computer, we bought a dongle, just an ordinary open dongle that you could put an SMS, I think it is, card in, the same as your cell phone, and immediately, and then you buy a plan which costs something like $50 for a month and a gigabyte. And so all the way along there, and a lot of the coast of Brazil has got cell phone coverage, most of it actually. We could go on the internet. In fact, actually, every second morning I'd even read the Herald. So I knew what was going on at home. And so that was, that cost a little bit. And then, of course, when you actually go ashore, all the marinas have Wi-Fi, and you can invariably run the computer in a bag and go and sit and have a cup of coffee and sit in a cafe and use it on Wi-Fi rather than using their equipment. That's working pretty well. WeatherFact, yeah. You can actually get those through SailMail, although we have got another program, the Zazero program, which gives you you just plug it into the computer and it prints up the maps straight away. Yeah, VHF was quite good. Not down the coast of Patagonia, really. There's just nothing there, apart from the occasional ferry. Some lighthouses. And you've got to actually communicate with the Chilean Navy every day. They require you to report in. Now, you can do it by 2 or 3 ways. You can do it by HF radio and go on a roll call, which is in Spanish and very quick and very ties you down. But the way they seem to be preferring it now is by email. And so we just set up an email that said who we were, position, that long, Kalita, Oya, or whatever it was, and Estoy bien, which means all okay. And all you had to do each evening when you were anchored or stopped or whatever, you just put in a Latin long off the GPS and change the name of the Kalita and push send. And it was as simple as that. And they were very, very pleased with it. Some of the French say, oh, hell with that, I'm not going to do any of that. And they find it a little bit harder when they do have to deal with the Armada. Every lighthouse you pass is manned, and you have to report in there. Every Armada station you have to report in. They really are very keen to know where you are. It's not that they're worried that you're going to fire torpedoes at them on behalf of the Argentinians. It's just purely that they are the ones who have to come and fetch people when they get into trouble. And if they've got, they can reduce that search. And the vast myriad canals there, they know about where you are. They know where to come and look. No, it's not really. Look, they've got their rules and regulations, and provided you actually do what they request of you, they are very helpful. They speak English mostly, or some English. They go out of their way to be helpful. You try and bounce them around like the odd person does, they find it less helpful. But we didn't find it either particularly troublesome or time-consuming. When we were in Valdivia, before we headed south, they insist that boats coming in, before they leave that first port of entry, they do an inspection, and 2 guys came down and did what would be probably equivalent of a Cat 3 inspection here. And if you're found wanting, they'll make you go and do whatever you need, whatever they say you need to do. But we were fine anyway, and even in Argentina, the guy got a bit angry there. Although the Argentinians are funny, and there's a lot of corruption right through their civil service and their government, and the people don't like it. But that's what they put up with these days. And the guy came on board in Ushuaia and looked at various things like fire extinguishers and things, looking for out-of-date things, and he found some out-of-date flares and threw a wobbly and walked off. That was the last we saw of them. No. Well, we call them stern lines because, okay, you drop an anchor in maybe 10 meters, 12 meters of water on short stay, and you're in an area that is really very, very confined. There's no swinging room. Or if there is swinging room, it's usually this drop-off is so steep that you're not going to stay there. So by just dropping the dinghy down, using the outboard, although people say there's kelp and things, we had no real problem. Run ashore, take 2 lines, have them free running out. We use 14 mil floating line, and you go over to one tree and put a bowline around it, and then head off and do the other one. If you could, you'd run them back to the boat, so it was easier to leave in the morning. Sometimes it was 4 lines, but you got pretty quick at it, and from the time we would, shall we say, go in and be dropping the anchor, we could have 4 lines out in generally about half an hour and be secure. Now, the weather changes are dramatic and very strong, and the holding not so good. We did photographs in there by the thousand, and of course, at one stage there, I think we've got about 250 kgs of kelp on the anchor at one stage, absolutely huge, went from the gunnel down to the water. And of course, your anchor doesn't hold in those conditions. And so it does pay to use shorelines, and they're pretty quick to run out. You get used to it. It seems like a big hassle before you start, but you get used to it. It's not too bad. Well, you can always drop them, but of course, don't forget the lee shores are generally, it's like being on a lee shore inside Port Fitzroy. It's not like an open lee shore, but you know how it screams through Fitzroy when it really blows. It's similar to that in many respects, or Ticoon. And if you actually, in a lot of places out at Barrier, actually quite a few places I think there, you could drop an anchor. Because don't forget, if you're actually on a lee shore and it's really steep, you're trying to pull the anchor up. And it's not going to move. We've got an 80-pound Manson Supreme there, and it doesn't move. It really doesn't in 13 mil chain, so it'll carry a huge load. And so then you can pull them tight, and it's good. But if you use one of the fiddly little things that they stick on half the launches around here in Westhaven, then obviously you're going to drag. Absolutely, and you've got to have shorelines set up down there at least, well, 4 at least 100 metres long. But the rope in Chile is really cheap. We bought some about 120 metres for $60, and really good, strong stuff, floating stuff. You want it to be floating, otherwise it comes up all covered in green grass, and it's horrible. Yeah, Skip Novak's boat down there, the first one he built down there, is called Pelagic, and she's actually, we've got to know the guys very well on board her. And those charter boats, they certainly have the big drums, and they're running quite heavy lines too. But if you're going down for a casual visit, investing in those drums, they don't make life that much easier. We used to actually sort of fish bin type things to just break them down, and better still would be to have what some boats have done. They just made up a canvas, basically a canvas bag along the gunnel, and just drop them in there, and then they just run right out, and then just put them back in there. And that's probably the best way I would recommend. But certainly we got to know Pelagic down there, big heavy steel boat, and funnily enough, we actually got alongside of them and helped them into the travel lift with our dinghy. They didn't have an engine when the travel lift driver came and said, you've got to get in the travel lift now. It's not organised in Ferriopolis, and he had his engine in pieces, so we punted him in there. So we got to know the guys on Pelagic pretty well. Okay.